Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the sound system, but I decided this afternoon to try a new webcam. And unfortunately, it got its own mic inside. So now I got three mics competing against each other, which means nothing worked. So now I still don't know whether this one is broadcast. Those guys, that is over the waters, different countries, and who is today enjoying the day with us. Everybody knows that it's to about 6 o'clock. In the process, all pubs, all places where people gather must be closed at 6 in the evening. The fear for the virus, of course, led to the fact that most functions, book functions especially, has been cancelled. So I cannot bring the book launch in any other way to the rest of the people in South Africa other than doing it live, which is the very first time in history, as far as I know, that we are doing it live, a book launch. But people are listening from far, far away. Richard Hamlet in the United States is now listening. Richard, welcome. Then also Herman and Colin there in Nigeria is listening. Benin and Remy in the Netherlands. The Outback Canopy in Australia. Garth Pienaar and Dave Stevenson, they are listening. And then, of course, the local guys are also listening. Some people in Nelspruit, Cliffy, and Christian is listening that side. Velrif, Peter with the factory, warehouse factory wholesaler shop. Guys, if you want to buy cheap fish and cheap tin food, Peter is your man. Peter, now you must bring your promise and do your side of the bargain. As I do with all book launches, I normally start by thanking my sister, Edith Schoen, who is the editor of all my books and also sort of a soundboard. So whenever I'm sending her a book and she don't respond, then I know the book is reading well. But if she responds within 10 minutes, then I realize the book is not so good. Also, I want to thank Pierre Smith. Now, Pierre has also read the book before the time, but Pierre is reading it 3-4 times and then he comments. And normally, his advice is not so good. But Pierre, it's okay. The bottom line is, Pierre's name appears in all 3 of the books. Why? Because I warned him, listen, don't phone me when I'm writing. I'm working. I don't want to hear anybody or speak to anybody. And he kept on phoning me. And I saw the light of the phone. And I realized at that stage, but I'm in the process of creating a new character. So I said, you didn't listen. So Pierre Smith is in the book. Unfortunately, I had to make him survive until the very end. But the first book, Soldaat, which you all know by now, soldier, Afrikaans, soldaat, was the first one to appear. And it's about national service in South Africa and what all the national servicemen went through. I mean, here is, you, sitting in the crowd, and Tertius, and he can see himself in the book, in the story, how he developed. He was a serviceman who became a second lieutenant and he developed. But this book did so well that it asked for a follow-up. So I did a follow-up, a coupling, which was mainly about the parachute battalion and equestrian unit of the SADF. And then everybody asked me now, how are you going to end it off? So I had to end it off with Compass. And Compass, of course, tells my story. All of the books, to a sense, my experiences, but all the operations in this book. And in Compass, you will even find the names of the instructors, the correct names, the real names in the operations, the real names of the people who did it. But in many cases, I did not mention the surname for purpose of a little bit of anonymity. Yeah, great. Anyway, I received a call earlier today, guy, because he was logistics and allocated to 4 reconnaissance regiments. So he's the only guy in the Navy who wears a maroon beret with a Navy badge on the front. And he called me and said, Wynand, this book is reading better than all the other books. He's already at page 114, and he only received the book just before 12 today. So, and he's not going to sleep tonight. He's going to do this job. So when you read any of these 3 books, and Compass is the final in the trilogy of the books. So somewhere along the line, you will read about, for those that don't know how it was to be in the military in our days, read the books. It will tell you the story. And normally, I told the wives, you must read the book so that you can understand why. But, gentlemen and ladies, coming back to the situation currently in South Africa, it is difficult for us. And this morning, Francis said in a live Facebook broadcast, he said, at 2015, where we started, with the very first book, Judas Bok or Judas Goat, until now, 5 years later, with 10 different published works, first book, Judas Goat, will be a success or not. And she told the story this morning that when we had to decide at numbers, how many are we going to print, I suggested maybe we should print 50 of Judas Bok, just to see if it is selling. In the end, the best price was putting everything at risk and had 1,000 copies printed. Now, until today, over 12,000 copies of Judas Bok, Judas Goat, has been sold. And so the rest follows. It just became a natural thing. I must watch the time, by the way. And it was just a natural thing to let the whole process continue and continue the writing process. It's nice. I think I can still write when I'm 80 years old, but I cannot drive a tractor so well when I'm 80 years old. You know, that look around to see if the plow is still behind you. It's getting more and more difficult. But now we are standing 5 years later with the 10th book. And I think we did extremely well. And we are living off the income of the books, and that's our sole source of income. And all of a sudden, coronavirus happened to the world and happened to South Africa. And in the past week, saw about 30 odd functions being cancelled because of the coronavirus. So until the end of May, there is no way that we can take the book to the people. So the only way now is for the people to use technology, email Francis, and order the books online, and we send it immediately to any place in the world. That's the only way how we can do it. Whether we can succeed with this challenge, we don't know. Whether we will survive, we don't know. But one thing is certain, is that if we believe and we came up with new innovative systems of doing things, then we will survive. I thought it was a great idea of Francis to come forward and say, well, let's do it live on YouTube. I didn't even know how to operate YouTube, but we learned very quickly, except for the little bit of problem in the beginning. Life has to continue. And I couldn't think different or being reminded back in the prison in Angola as a prisoner of war, where I was one day staring at the concrete slab outside the cell. And in this concrete slab was a crack. And in the crack grew a little creeper plant, a creeper. And now a creeper, those that is putting out his feelers like this. But there was nothing for this plant to creep up against. So it was just sitting there on the ground, going nowhere, did not develop, nothing is happening with the creeper plant. And then one day I took a thread from my blanket or my towel is the right word, from the towel, tied it around a little battery and I threw it to this little creeper plant. I tied the string, the thread, to the bottom bar of the door. And the next morning, the first feeler caught at this thread. And the morning afterwards, another one has caught the thread. Then I lifted this thread right to the top bar of this door. And every day I saw this plant creeping up against this thread. How it grew bigger, how it developed. And it grew up until the roof. And it covered the outside of the wall of the cell. It came through the bars at the top and it covered the inside of the cell. And then one day I was sitting there looking at this big plant, this strong plant, and now that little thread was hanging dilapidated and useless. And it hit me suddenly. But Wynand du Toit, you are that creeper that is going nowhere, that is not creeping, not growing, not developing, because you don't see the threads in your life. And I had to start thinking, what kept me alive until at that moment in the cell? And I realized it is the things that has kept me morally strong and lifted my mood. And that's threats. And this week I was reminded of that. It's a threat. You must just see the opportunity, grab at it, and grow and continue. I think bottom part of the population is going to suffer the most because of the economics, what is happening in South Africa. We have to downscale, businesses must close, and all those type of restrictions that's being put upon us. It's going to ask us once again to look out for the threat in your life, to look out for that little solution to your problem. And once we realize that, we will overcome. Because for every problem, there is a threat, there is a solution. And too difficult to accept or too difficult to execute. So guys, who have thought they have reached the end of the line, and what kept them going was the threats for the right cause. But also, we don't talk about the military or the former military or the old days and the border days without remembering those that are not with us anymore. Those guys who have brought the biggest sacrifice that one could give.
Yes.
Give everything. Give all. As they say, everybody gave something, but some gave everything. So I ask my fellow veterans here tonight to join me in a toast on our fallen comrades. Come guys, come closer. Somebody voor die... Ja, je moet die camera kunnen verder. Dat wordt.
Wat dan?
Ik was zo skoppen. Okay, guys.
Is die hoogte en dinge reg geskryf?
Ja.
Drink a toast to the fallen. Salute.
We will never forget.
We will remember them.
You have to cover it.
Thank you very much, and thank you guys for joining us on this first international book launch. And now the only thing that remains to be done is to translate this book into English so that you guys can also read it. But that will be difficult. Watch out for my next book, which will be Argon, which will be the first two books joined together in English, available for the international market.
En koop net die bly boek, asseblief.
Yeah, and you can go to my website and get more details on how to order the books. There is in fact 3 English books which is available. Guys, thank you very much, everybody here in Frangos tonight. Lawrence, thank you for your assistance. And lastly, Francis, thank you for the help. And there's one guy sitting in Port Gietersrus, Basil Duke Norris. Basil, if you are watching, I will be there soon. And we will go big. Stay well, guys. Thanks.